There's a second truth we need to believe to grow a culture of generosity in our churches. We need to believe in the priority of giving toward the local church. This matters because many Christians see giving as, I give where I feel most passionate, or I give if I think you need my gift, or I give because I think you deserve it. Scripture teaches something far more grounded. Let me give you 3 reasons why I believe the priority giving for the Christian is to be the local church. First, historically, God's giving commands were to be given to the primary location of gathered worship and to the poor. Old and New Testament, that's the pattern. Gifts were brought to the tent of meeting, even before the tabernacle. Then they were brought to the tabernacle. Their offerings were brought there. And then they were brought to the temple. And then you get to the book of Acts, and they were brought to the church leaders who distributed it. So the first reason local church giving should be the priority is long-term pattern of the Bible, Old and New Testament, is people's offering coming to the priority place of gathered worship, to their spiritual leaders who distributed it. Secondly, theologically, God's plan for redemption is through the local church. It's God's plan A. Ephesians 3 says that through the church, God is to be made known. God ordained 3 organizations, 3 institutions, the family, the government, the church. And the family is funded through your employment. The government is funded through your taxes. The church, God's plan A for redeeming the world, is funded through your giving. Now, nonprofit Christian giving, I'm a huge fan. My wife and I do it, but it's to be the bonus of our giving. By the way, every parachurch ministry ever started was started because of a weakness in the local church. Why was Campus Crusade created? Because churches weren't evangelizing college students well. Navigators began because discipleship wasn't happening effectively one-on-one. Missions agencies were created because churches weren't getting missionaries around the world effectively to the mission field. Seminaries started because local churches weren't raising up and educating pastors significantly to pastor churches. And I love all of those ministries. We need them. They should be supported. But God's plan A is the church, and the mission of the church is too essential to be underfunded. The third reason I think priority giving should be the local church is because in the New Testament, giving was primarily done through the church and its leaders. Let me show you just a few places. Acts chapter 4. God's grace was so powerfully at work in them all that. So God's grace, what's the proof of God's grace? There were no needy persons among them. For from time to time, those who owned land or houses sold them, brought the money from the sales, and put it at the apostles' feet. And it was distributed to anyone who had a need. We tend to think, oh yeah, people would sell lands and they give it to the poor. No, they brought it to the church and they distributed it to those who needed that ministry. Our passionate individualism fights against this. But look at the New Testament. Almost every time, other than your own family, even giving to the poor happened through the local church. They brought the money to the leaders of the church in Jerusalem and they distributed it. They knew who the poor were, but it was the church and its leaders that distributed those funds. The story of Barnabas is the same in Acts 4. Barnabas sold a field he owned, brought the money, and put it at the apostles' feet. Paul says to the Corinthians, on the first day of every week, each of you should set aside a sum of money in keeping with your income, saving it up, so when I come, no collections will have to be made. So bring it into the gathering, save it up, and then it will be distributed. Set it aside. Those are 3 reasons I think giving should primarily be done through the local church. 1, historically, giving was done all the way back in the Old Testament through the gathered place of worship and giving to the poor. Secondly, the local church is God's plan A for redemption. And thirdly, the New Testament pattern was that giving was done through the church and its leaders. We need to believe that, or we'll always be in competition with great ministries that people should support, but it shouldn't be their primary support. We need to unapologetically believe and model primary giving to the local church.